That question had haunted Jaein ever since he fell into this world. Not once, not occasionally, constantly. Every waking moment, every breath, every step through the unfamiliar streets of Verdes was consumed by the same thought. Strength, not ordinary strength, not the slow, natural growth of a swordsman. He needed explosive growth, abnormal growth, the kind of growth that could outrun fate itself. Because he knew something no one else in this world knew. The world was going to end, and if he remained weak, he would die long before the true disaster even began. Jaein sat quietly near the inn window, staring into the distant skyline of Verdes while organizing countless possibilities inside his mind. The first solution he considered was magic. Mana capacity, mana regeneration, the strengthening of magical circuits. If he could increase his MP pool, then perhaps the duration of Soul of the Swordmaster would increase as well. And if that happened, everything would become simple. He could survive almost any situation through pure, overwhelming skill. But after long consideration, he abandoned the idea. No, it's inefficient. Magic relied heavily on talent. Without a natural foundation, growth was painfully slow, and his current magic stat was pathetic. A single point, not even a properly formed mana circuit existed inside his body. Trying to force magical growth now would be like pouring water into a broken vessel. Possible? Maybe. Efficient? Absolutely not. Jaein slowly clenched his trembling hand. His body was weak, painfully weak. Even minor exertion left him breathless. His muscles ached constantly. His head pounded for no reason. This body could barely survive daily life, much less the catastrophic future approaching this world. No matter how talented the sword is, it still needs a body to wield it. That was the conclusion he reached. Before mana, before techniques, before grand ambitions, he needed a foundation, strength, agility, endurance, and there was only one shortcut he knew. The Earth Dragon. Far beneath Labyrinth Village, hidden deep underground, slept a monster whose corpse alone could completely transform his physical abilities. That was his target. That was his first real gamble. And if he failed, he would simply die underground like countless adventurers before him. Merchants shouted over each other from every direction. Metal clanged. Animals cried. Steam rose from food stalls in thick waves. The entire market looked alive. Jaein walked calmly through the chaos while Adelia followed several steps behind him, carrying a backpack now overflowing with strange supplies. Earplugs, silk cloth, empty chests, spices, various odd tools. Adelia looked increasingly confused with every purchase. Sir Jaein, are all of these truly necessary? Yes, that was all he answered. Jaein never explained more than needed. To Adelia, his actions often appeared random, mysterious, impossible to predict, but in truth, every single purchase had purpose. Every item was preparation for survival. As they exited the market district, Jaein finally spoke again. How much do you know about Labyrinth Village? Adelia hesitated briefly. Only rumors. They say it's a lawless underground settlement filled with criminals and heretics. Jaein chuckled softly. That's only partially true. He continued walking while speaking calmly. Verdes was one of the safest cities on the continent due to its barrier protections. Naturally, people flocked there, but safe land inside the city walls was limited, expensive beyond imagination. Ordinary people could never afford to live there, so the poor moved outward or downward. They settled wherever the barrier's influence still reached. Over time, tunnels beneath the city became homes, then streets, then entire villages. That was how Labyrinth Village was born. At first glance, it barely resembled the horrifying rumors surrounding it. Children ran across hanging bridges suspended between cliffs. Warm soup boiled from roadside stalls. Workers laughed while carrying lumber and tools. It looked almost peaceful. Adelia stared around in visible confusion. This is Labyrinth Village? Yes. Jaein looked down toward the deeper tunnels below. But this is only the surface. The deeper one descended, the darker things became. The barrier weakened. Monsters appeared. Law disappeared. And eventually, only desperation remained. As they continued downward, the atmosphere slowly changed. The laughter faded. The light dimmed. Soon the streets became crowded with mercenaries, scavengers, drunks, and hardened adventurers. Sharp eyes followed them everywhere. Then suddenly, thump. Adelia grabbed a man's wrist mid-motion. The pickpocket screamed in pain as stolen supplies fell from his sleeve. Leave, Adelia warned coldly. The thief immediately fled. Jaein glanced sideways at her. Her senses truly were exceptional. Even now, despite all the danger around them, she remained calm and composed. That strength would become essential very soon. Chapter 3. Into the tunnels, the true labyrinth began where the last traces of sunlight disappeared. The air became damp, cold, heavy with the smell of dirt and mold. Torchlight flickered weakly against rough stone walls while distant echoes crawled endlessly through the darkness. Jaein's eyes narrowed slightly. This was familiar territory, not because he had physically been here before, but because he had explored this place hundreds of times through the game. Every fork, every danger, every hidden route. He remembered them all, and yet something still felt different. Real. Far too real. A translucent window suddenly appeared in the darkness. LV-11, without hesitation, Jayan spoke. Adelia! The goblin lunged from the shadows. A heartbeat later, Adelia's blade flashed. Slash. The creature's head rolled across the tunnel floor. Clean. Instant. Effortless. Jayan quietly studied the movement, the goblin's speed, its attack pattern, Adelia's reaction timing. His body was weak, but his perception had changed. Somehow, he could already visualize the movement of battle more clearly than before, as if his swordsmanship talent had begun awakening. The deeper they traveled, the more adventurers they encountered. Most parties traveled cautiously, hands near weapons, eyes filled with distrust, because Labyrinth Village was not merely dangerous due to monsters. Humans were often worse. Marauders, one adventurer muttered during a tense exchange. Men who hunted people instead of monsters. The tunnels were filled with them. Jayan remained calm through every encounter, but eventually one particular adventurer party drew his attention. Strong levels, balanced formation, an experienced guide, not amateurs, earth dragon hunters. The tension between both groups immediately became obvious. The adventurers attempted provocation, mockery, psychological pressure. They wanted Jayan to react first. A fight underground could easily be disguised as self-defense, but Jayan simply smiled faintly. "Thank you for the advice," he said calmly. "My adventure ends here." Then he turned around. The adventurers burst into mocking laughter behind him. Coward, weakling, rich noble playing explorer. Adelia looked utterly confused. "Sir Jayan, are we retreating?" "No." Jayan's gaze quietly shifted toward another tunnel. The path we need was never the same as theirs. That was the difference between ordinary adventurers and someone with hidden knowledge. Others searched blindly. Jayan already knew where the answer waited. Deep underground, beyond the cemetery, beyond the darkness, and somewhere far below, something else had already begun moving. Something that did not exist in the original scenario. Something capable of completely destroying the future he remembered. But Jayan did not know that yet. For now, he simply continued walking deeper into the labyrinth, toward the first major turning point of his fate. ACT2, Descent Chapter 4. The old cemetery, the deeper tunnels of Labyrinth Village, no longer felt like a settlement built by humans. They felt abandoned, forgotten. The warm noise of the upper district had long vanished behind them. No laughter, no merchants, no children running across bridges. Only silence remained, a suffocating, oppressive silence that seemed to grow heavier with every step downward. Torchlight flickered weakly against damp stone walls, while cold air drifted endlessly through the tunnels like the breath of something sleeping deep underground. Adelia quietly scanned the darkness around them. Even she seemed tense now. "Sir Jayan," her voice echoed softly. "What exactly are we searching for?" Jayan did not answer immediately. Instead, he continued walking until the tunnel finally opened into a vast underground graveyard. Crooked tombstones stretched endlessly beneath the darkness. Broken graves, collapsed crypts, weeds crawling across ancient burial grounds. The old cemetery. Adelia stopped completely. This place, the atmosphere itself felt wrong. Not merely abandoned, corrupted. Jayan slowly observed the surroundings. In the game, this place had always been dangerous, but seeing it in reality was entirely different. The smell of decay lingered thick in the air. Cold moisture crawled along the stone. The darkness itself seemed alive. "This cemetery used to be maintained," Jayan said quietly, "before the barrier weakened. Once the barrier's influence receded, monsters began appearing more frequently. Eventually, the residents abandoned the area entirely, and abandoned graves invited something else. Undead." A low groaning sound echoed from beneath the soil. Then another, then dozens more. Cracked earth burst open as skeletal hands clawed their way upward. Corpses dragged themselves from broken graves with stiff, unnatural movements. Rotting flesh hung from exposed bone. Empty eye sockets glowed faintly in the darkness. Adelia immediately stepped forward. Her sword left its sheath in a blur. The underground cemetery exploded into motion. One corpse lunged toward her, then another, then an entire wave. But Adelia moved without hesitation. Her teal aura ignited like sacred fire. Slash. A corpse split apart instantly. Another collapsed, then another. The undead surged endlessly, but before Adelia's holy aura, they looked pitiful, like dry leaves thrown into a storm. Jayan quietly watched the battlefield. The scene almost resembled purification rather than combat. Adelia's swordsmanship was beautiful, precise, clean, merciless, and yet Jayan noticed something else. Even while cutting down the undead, Adelia's expression remained solemn, respectful. She did not hate the dead. She pitied them. Eventually, silence returned to the cemetery once more. Mountains of corpses covered the ground. Adelia lowered her blade slowly before kneeling beside the dead. She began whispering a quiet prayer. Jayan watched her silently. This world truly was different from the game. In the game, undead were simply enemies. Here, they were once people. Chapter 5. The mandrakes scream. After the battle, the cemetery grew unnaturally still. Even the distant tunnel winds seemed quieter now. Jaein slowly walked deeper among the graves. He searched carefully, not with uncertainty, with memory. Every step followed hidden knowledge accumulated across countless playthroughs. And finally, he stopped. There. Adelia approached cautiously. First, she saw nothing unusual, only dark soil between old graves. Then her eyes widened. Mandrake. 3 strange roots protruded from the ground beneath the cracked earth. They looked almost human in shape, twisted, pale, unnatural. Even Adelia's calm composure faltered slightly. Mandrakes were legendary medicinal plants, extremely rare, extremely valuable, and these were no ordinary specimens. They had grown deep beneath Labyrinth Village while absorbing the energy of death for years. Top-grade elixirs. Jaein crouched beside them calmly. These are what we came for. Adelia looked at him with visible disbelief. How did you know they were here? Jaein answered without hesitation. A revelation. The lie came naturally now. Too naturally. And somehow that frightened him slightly. Still, Adelia accepted the answer. At this point, she had already witnessed too many impossible things. Jaein reached into his bag and removed several pairs of earplugs. Put these in. Adelia frowned slightly. Earplugs. The moment I pull the mandrake from the soil, it will scream. Jaein's eyes narrowed. And if you hear that scream directly, your mind may collapse. Adelia's expression stiffened immediately. Even she understood the seriousness in his tone. Carefully, she plugged her ears with cotton and cloth. Meanwhile, Jaein wrapped his hands around the first mandrake. The root resisted violently, as though alive. Then, R-I-I-E-K. The scream exploded through the underground cemetery. The sound was horrifying, sharp enough to pierce thought itself. Adelia instantly dropped to one knee while clutching her head. Even through the ear protection, pain flooded her mind. The scream echoed endlessly through the tunnels like a curse. Jaein felt the sound strike him directly, but another notification appeared before his eyes. Spirit Max resisted the mandrake's mental attack. He exhaled slowly. The passive effect had worked. Without hesitation, he wrapped the screaming mandrake tightly in silk and sealed it inside a chest. The scream abruptly stopped. Silence returned. Then he repeated the process with the second mandrake. Only one remained, and this final one was bait. Chapter 6. Donkey Elder. The scream continued echoing through the tunnels. Louder, further, deeper. Jaein calmly waited. Adelia, still pale from the mental attack, looked utterly exhausted. What exactly are we waiting for? Jaein smiled faintly. A guide. At first, only distant echoes answered. Then, He-Hawu, a donkey's cry erupted somewhere far away. The sound rapidly approached. Moments later, an old man burst into the cemetery while desperately chasing a gray donkey. The animal ignored him completely. Instead, it sprinted directly toward the remaining mandrake. Wait, Wilson, stop! Too late. Crunch. The donkey devoured the top-grade mandrake in a single bite. The old man froze in horror. Absolute horror. Jaein slowly stepped forward. You know how valuable that mandrake was, correct? The old man's face turned pale. Jaein already knew the truth. This old man was no ordinary guide. He was the Donkey Elder, one of the strangest hidden NPCs in the entire game. A man capable of safely reaching almost any destination underground. And more importantly, a man bound by a unique restriction that as long as he owed someone, he could never abandon them, never escape, never refuse repayment. Jaein understood this perfectly, which meant this situation was now completely under his control. The old man trembled helplessly. I don't have enough money to repay something like this. Jaein nodded calmly. That's fine. The old man blinked. You may repay the debt through labor, and thus the contract began. Installments, interest, guide service, complete obedience until the debt was repaid. Adelia silently watched the negotiation unfold. For the first time since meeting Jaein, she felt slightly unsettled, because Jaein was smiling. Not warmly, not kindly, but like someone moving pieces across a board only he could see. The labyrinth no longer felt chaotic. No dead ends, no collapsing tunnels, no monster ambushes. The old man navigated the underground pathways effortlessly, while his donkey wandered ahead with lazy confidence. Jaein observed everything quietly. This was exactly why the Donkey Elder was invaluable. Without him, even experienced adventurers became trapped for weeks underground. Entire parties vanished in the deeper layers. But now, their descent resembled a quiet march along hidden roads invisible to everyone else. The deeper they traveled, the stranger the tunnels became. The walls looked older, the stone darker. Sometimes distant vibrations rolled through the underground like sleeping thunder. The Earth Dragon. Even from this far away, its existence affected the labyrinth itself. Adelia remained unusually quiet during the descent. Perhaps the cemetery still lingered in her thoughts. Or perhaps she was beginning to realize how terrifying Jaein's hidden knowledge truly was. Meanwhile, far above them, events had had already begun moving elsewhere. The Brickwood family had taken the bait. Rumors surrounding the heavenly dragon bird spread rapidly across Verdas. Powerful people were beginning to investigate, and Jaehyun's name was slowly entering conversations it should never have reached this early. But underground, Jaehyun remained unaware. For now, his attention remained fixed only on one destination, the Earth Dragon's nest. After nearly 2 full days underground, the tunnels finally opened into an enormous stone chamber. At its center stood a massive gate, ancient, gigantic, covered in strange carvings worn down by time. Even the donkey elder stopped walking. "We go no further," he muttered nervously. The donkey itself stepped backward, as if instinct warned it not to approach. Jaehyun slowly raised his eyes toward the colossal doors. Behind them waited the Earth Dragon, the first true boss of his new life, and perhaps the first major deviation from the future he remembered. ACT3 Disruption Chapter 8. The dead dragon. The underground chamber was vast enough to resemble an ancient temple buried beneath the continent itself. Towering stone pillars stretched upward into darkness. Blue flames burned silently along the walls. Dust drifted through the still air like ash suspended in time. And at the very center of the chamber, something enormous rested there. The Earth Dragon. Even motionless, its colossal body radiated overwhelming pressure. Its scales resembled layers of ancient stone. Its massive coils sprawled across the chamber like a collapsed mountain range. Adelia unconsciously stopped breathing. For a moment, even she forgot to move. This was not simply a monster. It felt closer to a natural disaster given form. Jaehyun slowly stepped forward. His eyes narrowed. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. Then the level window appeared. LV 100. Jaehyun froze instantly. What? That was impossible. In the original game, the Earth Dragon's level was 91. Not 100. Never 100. A cold sensation crawled down his spine. Then he finally noticed it. Someone was sitting cross-legged atop the Earth Dragon's corpse. The dragon was already dead, and the figure resting upon its body slowly opened glowing reptilian eyes. The pressure inside the chamber changed instantly. Heavy, violent, predatory. Adelia reacted first. Her sword flashed from its sheath. Too late. Boom! A black blur crossed the chamber. The impact shattered stone. Adelia's body slammed violently into the distant wall before collapsing motionless onto the floor. Jaehyun's mind went blank. He had not even seen the movement. Then the figure appeared before him. Dragon scales covered portions of his skin. Muscles coiled beneath his frame like compressed steel. Vertical pupils stared down at Jaehyun with terrifying intensity. The violent dragon, one of the 12 sword masters, one of the strongest monsters disguised as a human in the entire world, and someone who should not have appeared this early. Not here. Not now. The violent dragon tilted his head slightly. "Are you the newly chosen seeker?" Jaehyun could not answer immediately, because his thoughts had already fallen into chaos. The scenario was changing. No, it had already changed. System messages suddenly flooded his vision. Causality has been distorted. Hidden sequence partially revealed. Encounter with the blazing dragon swordmaster accelerated. Jaehyun's heartbeat pounded violently. These were messages he had never seen before. Not once. Not even after hundreds of playthroughs. Something fundamental had broken. Chapter 9. The auto-parry. The violent dragon frowned slightly. "Why aren't you answering?" Then he moved. No warning. No hesitation. Pure violence. His fist exploded toward Jaehyun's face with enough force to pulverize stone. Jaehyun never even perceived the attack, but something else reacted first. Shing! A sharp metallic cry echoed through the chamber. Jaehyun's body shifted automatically. Both arms moved. His stance adjusted. The feather blade rose upward. Clang! The impact detonated across the chamber like thunder. Dust erupted everywhere. Jaehyun's eyes widened. He had blocked it. No, ultimate auto-parry had blocked it. The violent dragon slowly stared at his own fist pressing against Jaehyun's blade. For the first time, genuine interest appeared in his eyes. Interesting. Jaehyun's heart pounded violently inside his chest. He understood the truth immediately. If another attack came, he would die. The skill cooldown had already begun. There would not be a second miracle. But outwardly, he forced himself to remain calm. That calmness became his weapon. "As expected of a descendant of lizards," Jaehyun said coldly. "You have no manners." Silence. The chamber temperature seemed to drop instantly. The violent dragon's pupils narrowed. "What did you just call me?" "Lizard." The killing intent that exploded outward was monstrous. The walls trembled. The air itself felt compressed. Dragon bloodlines considered that word the ultimate insult. Adelia, barely conscious in the distance, felt terror flood her body. But Jaehyun stepped forward instead. Only one step, and pointed his sword directly toward the violent dragon's throat. Rudeness should only happen once. The bluff was insane. A level 1 weakling threatening one of the strongest beings on the continent. And yet, the violent dragon did not attack immediately, because he had felt something impossible moments earlier. The auto-parry, a perfect defense defense against his killing strike. For the first time in years, uncertainty entered the Swordmaster's mind. Violence lingered everywhere like static before a storm. The violent dragon grinned slowly. Kwahahaha. His laughter echoed throughout the temple. You threaten me despite standing before death itself? Jaein remained motionless. Inside, his thoughts raced desperately. He needed time, anything, any opening. Then suddenly, he noticed it. The violent dragon carried no sword. Of course, he must have rushed here immediately after receiving the revelation, which meant an idea formed instantly. A duel is meaningless under these conditions, Jaein said calmly. The violent dragon stopped laughing. What? You are unarmed. Jaein lowered his blade slightly. And I cannot currently use my full strength. The violent dragon's eyes sharpened immediately. Jaein continued speaking before the man could interrupt. If we fight now, neither of us will truly see the other's peak. Silence followed. Jaein pushed further. A true duel deserves proper conditions. The violent dragon stared at him carefully. His excitement slowly shifted into thought, because the logic made sense. Too much sense. A swordsman's pride demanded worthy battle conditions. And now he finally understood something else. Restriction. That must be it. The reason he could not sense Jaein's aura. The reason such impossible power appeared briefly. The man before him must be bound by some kind of restriction. The violent dragon slowly exhaled. Interesting. Then he stepped back. The pressure inside the chamber eased slightly. Fine, he said. We postpone the duel. Jaein silently resisted the urge to collapse in relief. He had survived, barely, but the violent dragon was not finished. When your restriction disappears, he said quietly, come find me. Then he reached into his clothing and tossed something forward. A crimson scale landed near Jaein's feet. Violent dragon scale. Proof of recognition. One of the rarest symbols among swordsmen on the continent. Jaein stared at it briefly. Even now, the situation still felt absurd. Then the violent dragon glanced toward the injured Adelia. That one has talent, he muttered. Don't let him die before our duel. Without another word, the sword master turned away and slowly disappeared deeper into the abyss beneath the labyrinth, like a storm retreating into darkness. Chapter 11, Broken Causality. Silence returned. Heavy, oppressive, unreal. Jaein remained motionless for several seconds after the violent dragon vanished. Only then did his legs nearly give out beneath him. Damn lunatic. His hands trembled slightly. He had truly come within a single step of death. No retries, no loading screens, no second attempts. Real death. And for the first time since arriving in this world, Jaein understood something terrifying. The game was no longer reliable. The future had changed. The Earth Dragon was dead. The violent dragon appeared early. Hidden messages emerged that should not exist. Causality itself had shifted, and Jaein no longer understood the full consequences of his own actions. That realization frightened him far more than the battle itself. A weak cough echoed nearby. Adelia. Jaein immediately rushed toward her. Blood covered her lips. Several bones were clearly broken. Her breathing was unstable. Even so, she forced herself to speak. Jaein Jiang, don't talk. Jaein quickly retrieved the remaining mandrake chest. This will hurt. Adelia weakly nodded. The moment the chest opened, Jaein shoved the mandrake toward her. Chew and swallow immediately. Adelia obeyed without hesitation. The mandrake's healing power activated instantly. White steam erupted around her body while damaged bones slowly realigned beneath the skin. The process looked agonizing, and it was. Adelia trembled violently while trying not to scream, but gradually her breathing stabilized. The aura surrounding her began growing stronger. The mandrake was not only healing her, it was strengthening her. Jaein quietly watched the process. This had originally been part of his plan. The Earth Dragon's heart for himself, the mandrake for Adelia, steady growth, careful preparation. But now, everything felt unstable, because the future was no longer following the scenario he remembered. And somewhere deep inside his chest, for the very first time, Jaein felt genuine fear toward the world itself.